All right. Thank you very much, Beth, and good morning, everyone. It's nice to see all of your shining faces on this Monday morning. And I am, my name is Mike Grant, and I'm part of the Rethinking Schools Task Force, along with our superintendent, Mary Jane Burke, and Ken Lippy, our assistant superintendent. Melina Boyd is here today to help us go through our presentation. Janelle Campbell, Michelle Drake, Patrick McLaughlin are the other members of our Rethinking Schools Task Force. And really, since the shelter in place began back in March, we have been working to try to figure out how we can return to site-based classroom instruction in the age of COVID-19. So as we looked at the agenda for today, the topics, go ahead and move to the next slide, Melina. What we realized is we needed to kind of tell a story because so much has changed in the last 5 months in education and in our world that it's hard to kind of figure out where we're going without looking back at where we've been, where we are now. So that's going to be the structure of the presentation this morning. And so we're going to start with where have we been? Go ahead to the next slide. Go ahead, Melina. So it was literally 5 months ago yesterday that the Marin County Office of Education hosted a public health community forum at MCOE. And we, at the time, we had our community room here. We were expecting a full house. We had probably 250, as many chairs as we could get packed into Hollis Hall because we knew there was extreme interest. This is a point in time where there were just a handful of COVID-19 cases in our state and in the Bay Area. The first incidents of known community transmission had just taken place. And about 2 hours before that meeting, we got a notification from our public health officer that gatherings of more than 100 people were prohibited. And so we quickly we got the word out to the community. We quickly rearranged the Hollis Hall to have 99 or actually 95 chairs available, along with we spaced the chairs out. We got the word out to the community that it was going to an online event, and we had over 1,000 people participate. And the result was just an update from our public health officer and from Kaiser, what our status was in Marin County, what we were going to do. Just a few days later, our shelter-in-place order was made by our public health officer, and that was known as Friday the 13th. It was on Friday the 13th the shelter-in-place went into enforcement, and a couple days later we began a 2-week suspension of classroom instruction. And what we realize and know is that probably since that suspension of classroom instruction took place, most likely the vast majority of substitute teachers were not given any assignments. I am interested to know, at some point, have there been any substitutes who've been assigned to support remote learning? I don't have the exact answer to that right now. And Beth, I'm not sure if you address this, but I know that there's people in the waiting room still. We're doing our best to open up a separate way to stream into this, but to assure everyone who is in the waiting room or unable to participate because we've reached the max, that this is being taped and will be available shortly after the end of the conclusion of today's presentation. So we transitioned to a remote learning and to a new world that we live in now. And about 3 days or 4 days after the suspension of classroom instruction, we were able to open up emergency pop-up childcare. And go ahead to the next slide. So the emergency pop-up childcare programs, when the shelter-in-place went into effect and the classroom-based instruction was suspended, we knew immediately that there were going to be frontline healthcare workers whose kids were not in school or childcare, so we needed to provide some relief to that very critical part of our essential workforce. So under the guidance of public health, we created the pop-up childcare program, and it was really not like any childcare we'd done before. It was a very structured program with cohorts of 12 or fewer students and a stable team of staff. There were very specific health and safety practices, including hand sanitizer and wipes and lots of gloves and temperature checks that we'll talk a little bit more about. And after an initial surge of children of frontline healthcare workers, we were able to open up those programs to first responders and disaster services workers, and eventually to all essential workers as the suspension of classroom activity grew expanded. So just to give you a little glimpse of what the pop-up childcare programs look like, we're going to see if we can click this video. So we're going to show through a few videos here, and some of them are YouTube, where we're going to have to see an advertisement. So bear with us as we kind of work through the little technical glitches, but this will hopefully give you a look at our pop-up childcare programs. Can you try that, Melina?
Hi, I'm Tanya Myers, and I work at MCOE in the Early Childhood Education Department. And today we are at Basich Elementary School at one of our Marin Child Care pop-up.
We're basically here to support the essential workers and their families and helping the kids complete their work, giving them as close of a school-like structure that we can give them.
The kids are so fun. I love this age group, the kindergarten, first, second grade. They're a lot of fun. Everything's exciting for them.
Our morning staff arrives at 7:30. Everybody comes into the staff room and gets their temperature taken, washes hands, and then we glove up, put on our mask, and then we head to the classroom and disinfect the tables. Every night we also have our custodial staff doing that as well. And at about 8 o'clock we have children that begin to arrive, and they come get checked in. The family gets asked a few health questions about being exposed to COVID, or if they have been diagnosed or somebody in their family is being tested, as well as other health questions about communicable diseases, fevers, and illnesses within the family. And anybody who says yes to any of those questions, then they get sent home and we notify public health. After they have their temperature taken, then I escort them to their classroom and they begin their day. Once the children enter the classroom, the first thing they do is they wash their hands and then they get their table ready. And so all the children have a designated place where they sit. They made a name tag on their very first day that stays there, and that's where they sit every single day. We serve breakfast, and if they're not hungry, then the teachers check in with them, and the first thing they do is they get started on their learning assignments.
Checking in on Zoom or Google Classroom and then giving them breaks in between so that it helps them stay focused.
We have some outdoor time. We also have creative activities, and those are sort of broken up throughout the day, so kids are taking some breaks and getting some movement and some creative time to express themselves and to explore. So we're pretty active when we're out here doing some creative games with children. You know, we're being so proactive and rigorous with keeping things clean.
I feel very comfortable and safe. We're really following the protocol. We have masks at our disposal. We always have gloves available, soap, hand sanitizer, Clorox wipes. I know that my coworker and I are safe.
Really, it's just more of being able to provide some sort of help for, essential workers, and taking care of the kids and helping them with their work is, I'm not a parent, but I'm assuming really, really helpful. And it's fun to be around kids.
All right, so that just gives you a little glimpse of what the child care, the pop-up child care programs look like. And right about a month or a week after those opened, we got a new announcement from public health that classroom instruction would be suspended through May 1st, and then just a week or two after that, there was an announcement that we would be closed through the remainder of the academic year. And as that was unfolding is when Mary Jane established our Rethinking Schools Task Force to try to understand, to try to explore how we could use the model that we had been testing and fine-tuning in the pop-up child cares to overlay onto how that might work for school programs. You can go to the next slide. So here's our team. We're it's a pretty motley crew there, and we're set up in the community room, which is no longer, the Marin County Office of Education is now closed to public meetings, and so we kind of took over the community room as our situation room, where we're monitoring daily the transmission of COVID-19 and exploring with public health how we can structure school in the safest possible way for children, for staff, and for families with COVID-19 still active in our community. So that's our team there. You can go to the next slide. So from the very beginning, we knew that the only way that we could move forward was collaboration, and we needed to get input from everyone. There was a high level of uncertainty and fear and anxiety, and also a very desperate need in our community among parents who were feeling inadequate in how they could support their children's distance learning, and there was conflicts in their need to go to work. And so we started a very collaborative process where we started to do in our office. We did these kind of focus groups where we talked about how we could kind of get our office back up and running in the most effective way, in a sequential way, because we knew if schools were going to open, we needed to have our main office open and functioning, role modeling the type of behavior. Essentially, the structure is that we come into our office at MCOE, and the way we would expect schools to operate is as if every student, every teacher, every adult in the vicinity is an asymptomatic carrier of COVID-19. So how can we protect ourselves and establish procedures and protocols that use that as kind of the baseline assumption? So let's go to the next slide. So this is an example of one of our school site walkthroughs with a diverse group of stakeholders. And what we learned is that the most challenging, the most difficult questions were the ones that we needed to embrace the most, because they would address issues that needed good thinking and collaborative input to find a solution, or the best solution. And so this is an example of a physically distanced, face covering wearing group talking about how school might look at this particular school site. Go to the next slide, please. So one of the things that has been done in our classrooms and is being done around the county right now is looking at classrooms and how we can declutter them and maximize the space to maximize physical distancing, which is one of the basic requirements, health and safety protocols to support the containment and control the transmission of COVID-19. So a lot of the classrooms right now or over the summer have been decluttered. A lot of the kind of, like this, in this picture, there's a picture of a fabric couch, which I believe at this point has been removed. And we're trying to kind of streamline classes and get so that everything is cleanable and disinfectable. Okay, next slide. Same thing in the offices. We're looking at, in this office here, we had to rearrange some workstations to ensure the physical distancing requirements were met. We literally have tape down in our hallways and corridors every 6 feet to keep people's awareness of what that physical distancing looks like. We have separated out our office into the southern wing and the northern wing, where there's very little intermixing between those two wings. Again, these are just measures that we've taken. Here you see in nurses' stations, one of the requirements now is that if there's a student or staff member who is exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19, that they're isolated either in a nursing station or an alternate location until they can be picked up and brought home. Okay, you can go to the next slide, Melina. One of the really significant points of emphasis our public health officer is encouraging all schools is to really maximize the use of outdoor spaces. Look at every campus and where are there opportunities to get classes of students outside to provide instruction, and to share those spaces, to coordinate use of those spaces among the different teachers and classrooms, and especially on nice days, and especially where there's shade available, to always have those spaces utilized because of the fresh air. The transmission of COVID-19 is much less prevalent in an outdoor setting. So next slide. Yeah, the next slide shows about 100 years ago, to help provide instruction, education during the pandemic of both tuberculosis and the Spanish flu. There was a big effort across the country to move, and across the world, to move instruction outside and to maximize airflow. So this has been done before. It was a while ago, but this is nothing new really in the context of things. So what happened was, over the course of a few weeks, our pop-up childcare program grew from 4 or 5 sites up to 13 cohorts at 6 sites. It went from 11 kids in the first day of pop-up childcare. We could probably maxed out at about 150 students at 13 cohorts. And it was clear that most of our special education programs by design were fewer than 12 students. And we had a number of teachers who came forward and said, hey, can we have our students, the online remote learning is not working for our students, and we're getting feedback from families, and can we try this model with our special education programs, and same with our alternative education programs. So we were able, in about the middle of May or early May, to open up a number of spring pilot programs in our special education and alternative education schools. And we have a short video here that describes one of those cohorts, Cindy Evans and her team at San Jose Middle School. So this might be one where we have to go through an advertisement. While this is being set up, I see there's a question: can anyone access the childcare pop-up videos? The answer is yes. We'll have these if they're not in a prominent location on our website. We will. Okay, go ahead, Melina.
Dreaming about, full of wide open spaces, unforgettable places, and world-class food and wine. Sonoma County makes the perfect near-cation getaway. Life opens up in Sonoma County.
Students have now been out of the classroom for at least 2 months, and while there is distance learning, for some children, being in a classroom setting is the best way to do it. Well, now one Marin County school district is preparing to launch a new program aimed at helping a select group of students and bringing them back to class. Joining me now, Cindy Evans, a special education teacher in Marin County. And Cindy, thanks for joining us. And how did the idea for this pilot program get started?
Well, thank you for letting me join you, because it's a great opportunity to express possibilities that we can do. So it started off at the beginning of the shelter in place. There were pop-up childcare centers in Marin County, and for the children of essential workers. And the Marin County Office of Education was a part of that program, and it proved to be very successful. So the superintendent, Mary Jane Burke, expressed an interest in opening up our classrooms for these special needs students, because it is most challenging for them to learn from home. So I volunteered, emailed her one morning after speaking with a parent who was just distraught with the situation, and I volunteered to make this happen in my classroom.
So talk about tomorrow. Which students are going to be in the classroom and why?
So we are following the guidelines of having a 12 or less cohort of the same people, the same students, the same 2 assistants or 3 assistants and the teacher. No one else can enter the classroom. It's just one small cohort, like a family. The students that will be coming to school are the same students that I've had throughout the school year. Their challenges range from Down syndrome to autism to cerebral palsy, medically fragile, kids who are limited language, nonverbal, and may use devices for communication. And so
the classroom is going to look a little different. Other changes as well. Talk about that.
Absolutely. So we took some furniture out of the classroom to make space for the desks. I teach middle school, so that's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So they all have their own desk, and so we moved the desks so they're probably at least 6 feet apart. Took out all of the clutter on the countertops, so the room can be disinfected every evening after school. And throughout the day, we'll be disinfecting. We'll be following the guidelines of the Marin Public Health. We're wearing masks. We're keeping our social distance. We have to take a temperature check where the kids are dropped off in the parking lot. They have to answer questions if they have or their parents will answer the questions if there's anybody sick at home, if they've been exposed to anyone. If they have a fever of 100.4 or above, they can't come to school. So we're following very strict guidelines to make everybody safe.
You know, I know there's a lot of parents watching this, and they're saying that sure sounds like a way to reopen all schools. Is this being considered as a possible model?
I hope so, because I feel like we have to think outside of the box and be creative, because there are a lot of students, especially children with special needs, who it's very challenging for them to learn at home when they have their functional life skills and communication skills. It's hard to teach that at home with your parents sitting right next to you. And then again, I think it's a model that elementary schools can take on, because they have just one classroom and one teacher. It'll be more challenging with middle school and high school, but there are many different combinations of 1 week on school, 1 week off school. There's a lot of, in Italy, they're trying lots of new solutions to this epidemic to have people go back to school.
All right, Cindy Evans, keep up the great work. Thanks so much for talking to us today.
Right, so you get a little glimpse of our spring pop-ups there. Emily, you can go to the next slide. So we're going to give you, so this is our alternative education program that we're going to give you a little glimpse into what we did at Marin's Community School for the spring. Go ahead.
Well, it really did affect me at first, because I thought that we were never going to come back to school, and I was scared of that, because it's not that I don't learn at home, it's just like really hard to get all the information in and keep it in when like we have other things like around us that can like make us like not concentrated in our schoolwork, and like it's the sleeping in part too.
All that computer work wasn't really working, so for me at school, right, I'm like more of a writing down on a piece of paper type of guy, and you're at school, you're actually like, he's actually there helping you and telling you like, all right, if you need this help, like, all right, there, and then he'll walk away for a second and then come back and see if you need help again, you know? So that's what I really like about school.
At home, it's very confusing to work because we don't get that much like information, and when we need help, we don't have anyone like to ask really, and it's sometimes like the Wi-Fi is really slow, so it's really hard to like turn in assignments and do work correctly.
The process and journey to get to where we are today was an interesting experience. I've never been put in a situation where we have to like detail-wise plan for the returning of students. And I can say everyone was overjoyed, everyone was ecstatic, everyone was bursting with excitement, but also there was a lot of concerns, mostly for our youth to end up in their classroom. And so from day one, as a team, we all met and we talked about what were the possibilities, what were the challenges, what were the safety hazards. And overall, we all managed to come to this point where we were able to have cohorts.
So first day, first 2 minutes, Wilmer just asks, you know, are you afraid? And I'm like, like I said, I didn't know we were going to that point to cut that deeply that soon. I told him the truth and I said, yes, I am. I'm afraid. I'm scared right now. They're in worse spots than I am. I know that they're upset that they got pushed out of school because of this worldwide pandemic. I know that they're in this spot where they feel like maybe they're let down, they're alone, and there's all of these things that go through my mind and how they're feeling and what they're going through, and is this life-changing for them in a negative way? And I know that I could probably do something to help affect that in a little way. In the few days that they were here in class, we saw kids do work where we had seen none before through distance, not through lack of trying. It's just that it's different when they have to do it on their own with all the different types of socioeconomic inequities and the technology issues. And
when we get students to come, some of them will jokingly say, "Did you miss me?" A lot of us know that they're asking, "Did you really miss me?" And to hear that response that, yes, how have you been? Have you been eating? Have you been okay? Like, just saying that, yes, we missed you has had a really big impact on our students.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff, like coming back outside, seeing my teachers again.
My experience coming back to school is really well. I enjoy coming back.
We can do normal. We can make the new normal, but it's just a lot of changes gotta happen.
I do feel safe coming back to school, and wearing masks is kind of annoying, but it's like better for our safety, so like I understand that.
If they're telling you to wear masks, then they're not just telling you to wear masks. They're just really, you know, like, it's for your own good. Real talk. For your own good.
And we do follow the 6 feet rule. We wash our hands frequently whenever we can before.
Authenticity is a huge thing, right?
Yeah.
And you really can't open any doors unless, you know, if people think that you're being not genuine. So it just doesn't work. I think we pride ourselves on the fact that we try to be as genuine, real, and authentic as possible. Authenticity is for now replacing our hugs.
Happy that they decided to open back the school, because it's not normal now, but like we're getting like into our normal lives again, because I was worried that it was just gonna be like we're gonna stay inside for like ever.
It feels really good to be back.
And we would like to thank all of you, Mary Jane, for at least giving us an opportunity to try and see, to give the students a chance to come back, to see some friendly faces, to see some love in action, and it's amazing. Thank you.
All right, so I see, thank you, Melina. So I see, go ahead and do the next slide. So I see a lot of the questions in the chat box are moving on to where are we going, where are we headed? And I just ask you to bear with me a little bit longer, because we're still in where have we been, and I think it just really lays the context of where we are today. You know, I would say probably one of the biggest differences when the day comes when you're back in the classroom as a substitute teacher, everything will look different. And the biggest shift is in, just like we've done in this office, every person is now a cleaner, sanitizer, disinfector. Most of the disinfecting happens through custodial staff or maintenance staff, but everyone in this office now has, sanitizing wipes next to them, hand sanitizer, gloves are everywhere. There's health and safety stations. And so we're going to give you, we made a short video because there's a very specific difference between cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. There's also, from our our school nurse perspective, there is a debate about the usefulness of gloves. And while certainly there is a good use for them, if you're not using them properly, they're ineffective. And also from our students, wearing face coverings, I want to point out right now that I am in a private room. I'm in our Marin County Office of Education boardroom with the door closed. I'm alone in the office. Whereas and Amy Writings is also in her office with the door closed, a private office. So our face coverings are not on. If you're in an open area or sharing an office like Melina Boyd or Beth Cratapole, they have their face coverings on right now. And so that is the protocol in our office. Face coverings are on at all times, wearing properly above your nose and below your mouth. And so that is different. That's the expectation at school, both for kids and for students. I should say students from 3rd grade to 12th grade. Students who are in K through 2nd grade now are strongly encouraged and taught how to use face coverings. But let's go to a short cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting video, which will be a responsibility that each of you will have in your role when you go into a classroom setting.
This is Michelle Drake reporting from the Situation Room, which is actually the community room here at Marin County Office of Education in Marin County, California. Welcome. As a member of the Rethinking Schools Task Force, we are diligently working on protocols and procedures to return our amazing students and staff back to classroom site-based instruction in the age of COVID under public health guidance. Today, we will be going through very important protocols and procedures on cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, and PPE. Now, I'd like to introduce you to 2 people who will be guiding us through our learning today, Chris Jacobson and Chris Pasquin. Let's go meet them.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris Jacobson. I'm a maintenance supervisor here with Marin County Office of Education. And today we're going to be covering how to properly wear PPE, what PPE to use when cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting non-porous surfaces at your site.
Hi, my name is Chris Pasquin, and I'm with Fishman Supply Company. I'm an account manager and serve most of the North Bay. I specialize in the education sector, and I service several schools and universities throughout the area. I look forward to working with Chris today. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to get started.
PPE stands for Personal Protective Equipment. Generally speaking, whenever handling sanitizers and disinfectants, wear protective eyewear, gloves, and a mask or a face covering. Gloves should be worn when cleaning up bodily substances, when applying spray sanitizers, and anytime disinfectants are being handled. It is recommended that you use rubber or other impervious gloves such as these single-use vinyl gloves. As always, wash your hands after removing gloves. Follow blood-borne pathogen guidelines when removing and disposing of gloves contaminated with bodily fluid. So a question we've been hearing a lot recently is, what is the difference between cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting? Let's find out. Cleaning is accomplished by using a detergent and water to mechanically wash an item followed by a thorough rinsing. Cleaning removes bulk quantities of pathogens and the materials they may be attached to, such as dust, dirt, and fluids. Cleaning can be performed on solid or porous surfaces. You may want to wear gloves depending upon the nature of the cleanup. Sanitizing refers to the application of a chemical solution that kills enough germs on a surface to make it safe for human contact. Such sanitizers can only be used on non-porous surfaces. Always read the label before using a sanitizer and follow the manufacturer's guidelines for dwell time, personal protective equipment, and solution ratios. When using a sanitizer to clean electronics such as a copy machine or keyboard, you'll want to spray the sanitizer into a clean towel and then wipe it down as shown here, and of course with proper PPE. And now, disinfectants. Disinfection kills 99.99% of bacteria and viruses on a surface and requires a stronger chemical solution when compared to a sanitizer. Again, it is critical that the user reads and adheres to the manufacturer's guidelines found on the bottle. As with sanitizers, disinfectants are to be used on non-porous surfaces only. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us today. Please visit us online for more resources surrounding the procedures and protocols around cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, and PPE. You can also email us at rapidresponse@marinschools.org. Yay for gloves!
Yeah, so thank you for pulling that up, Melina. And one of the questions I saw pop up is, has there been consideration about the toxicity of cleaning? And the answer is absolutely yes. You know, the cleaning products that are being used are cleaning products that are approved by the Environmental Protection Agency and are recommended by the California Department of Public Health to be effective on, you know, eliminating or you know, limiting the transmission of COVID-19. But the difference between a sanitizer and the disinfectant is the level of you know, toxicity to virus, but also you know, the level of importance of using personal protective equipment. So every classroom that you walk into should have a health and safety kit that is comprised of certain items that would include gloves and either wipes or sanitizer, may include disinfectant, and you know, that's just part of the reality that we'll have moving forward. The next one is a quick video on the proper use of gloves that was just produced by our Marin County School Nurses Association. Go ahead and pop that one in.
Hi, I'm Susan Ritter. I'm a school nurse for Marin County Office of Education, and I'm here today to talk to you about gloving. Now keep in mind, wearing gloves is just one piece of many tools we have to stay safe. We have tips that we can follow from our public health guidelines. The key to staying germ-free is to follow public health advice about using a tissue for coughs and sneezes and throw it away as soon as you're done. If you don't have a tissue, use your elbow or your upper arm. Stay home when you don't feel well. Keep 6 feet of physical distance between yourself and other people. Wear a face covering in public, and use proper hand hygiene. If you're a teacher, you'll want to develop your own schedule of hand washing for your students and staff. The CDC recommends washing hands before and after eating, after coughing, sneezing, or nose wiping, after being outside, and before and after using the restroom. There are certain times where you will want to use gloves in the classroom. We have 2 types of gloves to use. We have our disposable nitrile gloves, and we also have some heavy-duty gloves that we can use when we clean and sanitize our classroom. Hygiene should always be the first step before you put your gloves on. So if you're cleaning your classroom or sanitizing your classroom, you're going to want to use these heavy-duty gloves. But prior to putting on your gloves, you're going to put on your other PPE. So you'll have your face mask, then you can put your goggles or your face shield on to protect your eyes. And finally, the gloves are your last piece of essential protective equipment you're going to use. You can put your hand in the glove by holding it by the edge, then get the other glove and do the same thing. When sanitizing your classroom, I recommend spray it on the paper towel. That way you won't aerosolize so much. And then you've got a nice wet paper towel to spread the sanitizer. When you're finished doing your sanitizing, you'll take the gloves off, where you can put them in a safe place, and then you can remove the rest of your PPE, starting with your eye protection and, if appropriate, your face mask. Then you'll do your hand hygiene. Now with disposable gloves, it's a similar process. You'll put your face mask on first. If you need eye protection, you'll put your eye protection on, or your face shield. And finally, you'll put your gloves on. So with disposable gloves, you pick up your glove by the edge, put your dominant hand into the glove, get your second glove, again hold it by the edge, and put your non-dominant hand in. Now you're ready to do your procedure. In a classroom, this might be for feeding a child or changing a diaper. Maybe you have to do a minor medical procedure like help a child with asthma medicine or do a G-tube feed. These are instances where you want to wear gloves. Do you want to wear gloves all day in the classroom? No, not a great idea. The reason for that is every time you touch something, like your phone or your pen or the doorknob or a student, your gloves are now contaminated. When you finish the task that you needed your gloves for, it's time to take them off safely. So what you do is grab the glove by the edge, pull it off, then you can squeeze it in that other hand, slide a finger under, pull that other glove off, and you're going to throw it into your touchless brush. Then it's time to take off your goggles or your face shield if you're done with it, by the edge. If you're finished with your face mask, you can take that off, also by the edge. And then you'll do your hand hygiene.